Welcome to the ModernizeOrdie podcast, CFML News Edition, where we keep you up to date with everything going on in the Cold Fusion community. We'll share the latest news on events, releases to engines, frameworks, libraries, and tools, as well as spotlighting quality content from the community. Welcome to the ModernizeOrdie podcast, the CFML News Edition, episode 116, August 24th. I'm Gavin Pickin, and I'm joined today by Eric Peterson. How you doing, Eric?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Gavin?
Pretty good. Another week. We're getting closer. 1 month away to the Into the Box.
Woohoo!
So all the speakers who are watching are freaking out that it's 1 month left.
That's right. Myself included.
Yep. We'll get them done.
Yep.
That's a good thing about new content. You know, lots of great new content for everybody, but it means you got to write it. So. Okay. Well, first, let's thank our sponsor, Ortus Solutions, the makers of ColdBox, CommandBox, ForgeBox, TestBox, and lots of boxes. So, obviously, they help make this podcast possible, and a lot of great community features like those products. But some ways you can give back. We always would like you guys to go like and subscribe our videos on YouTube. Sign up for a free or paid account on CFCasts, which is releasing new content every week, and we'll tell you a little bit about some of that new content soon. And then we also have a book out, 102 ColdBox HMVC Quick Tips and Tricks, which is available on Gumroad. And so those are just a few ways you can say thanks back to Ortus Solutions for helping the community and doing things like this podcast. And we also have Patreon supporters, Eric, right?
Our lovely Patreon supporters. I'm going to stick with that. Did it last week. You're all lovely. Maybe I said beautiful last week. Anyways, we have our great Patreon supporters providing 100% of the funding for this podcast. And we're now setting our sights on funding the ForgeBox IO website and package repository. We're 41% of the way there. And you can find out how you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/Ortus Solutions.
Yep, very cool. And we'll tell you a little bit more about the perks and even our annual memberships at the end of the show. Okay, news and events. So let's get started. And the first one is something that's been 3 months in the making. It's probably why we haven't seen Brad much lately. CommandBox 5.4.0 is released. That's
right. A minor update here, about 30 bug fixes and a number of other enhancements. You have some nice shell scripting that got added with the ask and confirm commands. Some other library updates, as well as some improved smarts to the jar endpoints, doing some kind of pseudo semantic versioning. But some great stuff here. We have a blog post we'll highlight, as well as you can check out the docs at commandbox.ortusbooks.com. There we go.
Yep. And I see that the JBoss Undertow has been updated to 2.2.10 final. That's pretty cool. So some updates there.
It's a lovely version number, .final. It makes me think of all the files I used to name, .real dash no reallys dash final.
Yeah, for sure.
I hope I wasn't the only one that did that.
Yep, and there's another one that I kind of like here too. The server prune command, you can give it a days equal, and then it'll basically just prune stuff that you haven't started for so many days, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, reclaim that disk space, right?
Yep, exactly. So wow, 30 bugs. Pretty impressive list here.
If you're anything like me and you like to just start up a new CommandBox server in like a throwaway folder to test something, you get a lot of those little servers hanging around, and 200, 300 meg Lucy engines all over the place. They add up.
Yep, for sure. I like that prune one for sure. So, yeah, I usually just trash the whole folder, forget all or whatever, but that's kind of nice. So, very cool. So, yeah, that has been released, so you can update that and go check that one out. And as we mentioned, ortussolutions.com on the blog. It has a nice blog post there, and Eric's already shared it in the chat for those watching.
That's right. And if you're in CommandBox, if you do update -- system, you'll be prompted right there to update either by downloading the new version or just downloading the updated code.
Yeah, I always get confused between update and upgrade. It's always
Yeah.
confusing. Because one will do your modules and the other one will do the actual tool. So
Then I think it's upgrade. I think I'm wrong.
maybe, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I always got to check both. So anyway.
We'll do it live right now. Let's see. Upgrade.
Upgrade? Okay. It's upgrade or upgrade. But update dash dash system is good to do every once in a while too, because you need your system modules upgraded. So.
That's right.
Okay. Also wanted to let you know that Fusion Reactor 8.7.3 was released. It was released on August 12th. Charlie tweeted about it saying there was a release, and he actually wrote a blog post up on that as well. So there's a lot more information in there. It does say that most of the updates were related to email configuration and stuff like that. For those watching can see as I scroll quickly through it. But basically, yeah, there's quite a lot of things done here. But email tests were one of the enhancements to understanding the failed email tests. But yeah, a lot of different things in here. So if you're using Fusion Reactor, definitely want to check that out. And Charlie's really detailed on all the things that make sense here in this video. The video 3450 mark. So yeah, that's part of the hour-long webinar they did a while back there, so you can check that out as well. So new version there. Go check that out. And if you're using the CommandBox tool for Fusion Reactor, it probably already updated for you. So that's the bonus of using the Fusion Reactor module with CommandBox. Okay. In case you missed it,
we got Into the Box speakers.
Yep. So speakers and sessions are all on the website now. So there's a lot of content here. I'm going to share my screen again for those watching. But we have 2 days, 2 tracks, 2 keynotes, and like 26 other sessions. So plenty of great stuff. They are doing the CB wire too. That's the live wire stuff's really popular in a lot of other languages right now, right?
Yeah, that's right. And if you have no idea what that's about, you better come see Grant's session.
Yep. So some good sessions in here. We got some familiar names from the community. Scott, who's in the chat, he'll be speaking a couple times, I think. He submitted a few topics, but apparently we can't let him speak on all of them because otherwise he'll need his own track. But
the Scott track.
Yeah, so see Seth is in there as well. John Farrar. So a lot of good names. Oh, we got Neil from Portena. So that's cool. Yeah, some good names here. So a lot of good content. Check that all out on the website, intothebox.org. And as I said, we are a month away now. So don't forget to get your tickets, book your airfares. It's going to be a fun one. So
we also have a webinar coming up tomorrow, 11 a.m. Central Time. It is CBValidation with Javier.
Yep.
So we will put the links to register for that. It is free, and it will also be available on CFCasts after the fact.
Yep. And CommandBox has made this validation module to make your life so much easier. So if you are validating your incoming requests, which you should be doing, this is definitely a module you want to check out. I've got a lot of helper methods in there just to make your life easier. So it's a great module with lots of improvements. So definitely go check that one out tomorrow.
Speaking of other webinars, we have an Adobe, webinar and workshop coming up.
Yep.
The Adobe One Day Workshop is on also tomorrow, the 25th. This one is for our friends in Europe, European time zone, Central European time zone, from 9 to 5. We will put that link in. And then there's an Adobe webinar. I guess the next one we have is in September. Is that right, Gavin?
Yeah, we did have one last week, exploring CF modules in the CLI with Mark Takata, and that video is not available yet, but it will be soon on the coldfusion.adobe.com/webinar page. But yeah, next month, September 22nd, Mark will be talking about Head in the Clouds, installing Cold Fusion on Azure and AWS. So yeah, just so you guys know that the webinar site does actually have a lot of the previous recordings. There's a lot of good content up there. So Especially since Adobe CF 2021 came out, they've been doing quite a few regular webinars, so lots of good content for you to watch there. Okay.
Speaking of good content to watch, should we tell everybody what's new in CFCasts this week?
Yeah. So it looks like we've been doing some quick videos.
Yeah, we keep updating our Up and Running with Quick workshop. This week, you're on learning about retrieving and updating and deleting entities. Just a reminder that you can subscribe to get access to all of these videos in the Quick workshop, or you can purchase it standalone on cfcast.com.
Yep. And so we got more videos coming up. You said there was about 13 steps, right, in the exercises, and then we're up to step 4. So still plenty of content coming our way.
Yes, exactly.
Very cool. I know I'll be talking about getting a quick API up and running at Into the Box.
Me too. Imagine that.
Yep. So if you want to learn more, Into the Box is going to have some more quick content for you. Speaking of conferences, we actually have one going on right now. So this one we forgot to mention last week, but I saw a couple of tweets about people using Nginx recently, and then that made me think, I think there's a conference. So the Nginx Sprint conference is actually this week. So it started yesterday, and it's going through the 25th. It's free. If you go to nginx.com/events, you'll see Nginx Sprint 2021. And Nginx is more than just a web browser. They have a lot of different pieces now, so they're really got a lot of tools built in. Nginx Plus is their sort of commercial product, upgraded over Nginx, but a lot of load balancing, and even they do APM as well, and they do a lot of cool stuff with it. So if you're using Nginx, you may want to find out a bit more about what it is, how to use it, and some of the extra things they have. So go check that one out. And then we have another one coming up very soon. So this is a Microsoft conference called Spring One. Code with the Flow is their tagline there. But I thought it was pretty interesting. So spring1.io is where you can check that out. And let me share my screen for those watching.
It looks like it actually might be VMware rather than Microsoft.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I thought it was, but yeah, it's covering Spring to Kubernetes and stuff. So it was kind of interesting. Like, it was kind of a mixture of a lot of topics. Like you see the CI/CD, Kubernetes, DevOps, Agile, modernization, core framework. So there's a lot in it. And
when they talk about Spring framework, is that the Java Spring framework?
That's what I thought it was. See, so like Spring Boot, and so and that's why I was like, there's a lot of interesting stuff that they're messing with here, and so I always think it's interesting to look at some of those different languages and tools and everything, and sort of compare to Fusion, and as you often do, get some good ideas. So so something to look at there, and they have workshops as well. The workshops are free, but you have to basically pay a ticket that you get refunded after, but it's just so they can actually have some limit to the number of people in the in-person workshops. They have go by yourself ones, and then actually instructor-led workshops included this way. And so it's kind of interesting. So so spring1.io if you want to find out more about that conference. And then not too long after that, we have Into the Box 2021.
Da, da, da.
So September 23rd and 24th, so just 1 month away. No workshops this year. As we mentioned earlier, speakers and schedule are released. They're on the website. Tickets are available through Eventbrite, which you can click on a link on the intothebox.org site. If you've got any questions, reach out to us on the Box Slack, and we'll try and answer them. But everything you should need to know is all on the intothebox.org website. So we're excited. We're getting closer and closer to it. We're hoping we can get more people to this conference. I know that it's a tough time with all the COVID stuff, but hopefully we can still get a lot of people there and still have a good conference. So we're excited to see people in person again. It's been too long. Okay, so if you are looking for more conferences, remember conf.tech does have that available, and they have a lot of different conferences from online, in person, in many different languages. Okay, so that's our conference wrap up for now. Still no word on CFCamp. Obviously, nothing yet there, and the same with Adobe's CF Summit later in the year. We haven't heard anything there, so not sure if they're going to be virtual or no event. We'll let you know once we know something. Okay, well, let's talk about blogs, tweets, and videos of the week. And let's start with Ben Nadal.
Yeah, so this is kind of revisiting one of his favorite topics, which is feature flags. And specifically at InVision, they use the Launch Darkly feature flag platform. And somebody asked him a follow-up about how they instantiate it using the Java SDK now, because his 6-year-old post on the matter, it's so cool that this has been going on, I mean, at least 6 years, used Java Loader, which Java Loader is both amazing and frustrating. It was a way to modify the Java class path on the fly, so you could load, ad hoc jars and then load the classes behind those. But it has some issues, especially if you run into conflicts having the same jar you want to load but different versions, which happens very common. And Lucy solved this with OSGI and brought that to the create object function. So now instead of having to deal with all of that and figure out the class path, you can put in the jar paths as the third argument to create object, and it can load it just from there. And it's so much nicer. I wish Adobe would bring this so I could use it in all these cross-platform modules. Instead, we're still using, either application Java settings or still sometimes using Java Loader.
Yep. Fortunately, it does work across platform, and sometimes we have to just choose what works and not what's best. But yeah, it's pretty cool to see the differences, obviously, from 6 years ago and what he can do now. And I like it when he makes these little videos too. It's kind of nice to walk through and watch that. So cool little blog post there. Thanks, Ben.
I think this is also a good example of integrating with the Java library. If you're having to do that yourself, and you can come here and get some ideas on how to make that easier, maybe some gotchas to watch out for. And so, yeah, I enjoyed this blog post.
Okay, so next up, we had a blog post from James Moberg, which is apparently is JSON structure CFML user-defined function. I guess he was doing some work and realized that apparently if you have certain characters, Cold Fusion might think it's actually a JSON payload when it's not actually a JSON payload.
Not quite. It's that strings, numbers, null, all are valid JSON by themselves.
Oh.
So a lot of the times people think of JSON as I got a JavaScript object or struct or an array, but a string's valid JSON.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
The problem is he had a third party that double encoded it, so they encoded the JSON and then put it into a string, and so now you're not getting out what you thought you were. So
gotcha.
His function specifically checks for, are you an array, are you an object, things like that.
Okay. I must have skimmed this one a little too quickly. But, I mean, it looks like a nice little function here. And I have run into the double encoding thing for sure. That does hurt when you're trying to figure out what stuff is. So, very cool. Okay. Short and sweet, but a nice little helper tool. Okay, next up, we have a blog post from Brad talking about the CommandBox 5.4.0 release. So we're not going to go into too much detail with that one. We already talked about it some, and you can go find that on the Ortus Solutions website. But Brad has also been tweeting, and this is a kind of a cool little thing that he decided to add too. So let me share my screen on that. You want to tell us a little bit about it, Eric?
Sure. So Brad's talking about needing to add the this.buffer output equals true in your application CFC in order to get Lucy's dump and abort working. And a shortcut for CommandBox users and, well, CommandBox and CFconfig and .env users, which sounds like a small intersection, but I think most of us use those. You can set a CFconfig environment property in your global environment file, and then every server you start with CommandBox will now have the buffer tag body output equal to true. So that's what's in Brad's tweet here, that you can run those two commands in CommandBox and never have to worry about that again.
Yeah, I like the way we can do that. The shared properties, and CFconfig makes almost everything easier these days. So the pain before was ridiculous. Especially when all those password text files started popping up for Lucy. I'm like, So, very cool. And then we also did mention about Fusion Reactor 8.7.3 being released, and Charlie's blog post on that. And so that blog post is also shared in our blog section. Okay, well, next up we have our CFML jobs. So we have 5 jobs listed new this week on getcfmljobs.com. Looks like a nice little mixture of jobs again. I'll share my screen for those watching. We have the ColdFusion Microsoft SQL Server developer at remote in the United States. We have a position in Bangalore, Karnataka, so software engineer Java / ColdFusion. And then we have a couple and in the United States. Let me just see where this one is at. It's Whitefield, Maryland. So there's 2 positions available there, and then another ColdFusion developer at remote as well. So these are all posted on the 18th. So over 169 jobs listed here so far. Looks like we've got quite a few. So quite a few recently. If you're looking for a job, this is a great place to look. And remember, follow them on Twitter, and you can see the jobs as they get posted live. We also have a couple of jobs at Ortus Solutions as well, and those are still listed on the website at ortussolutions.com/about-us/careers. So, looking for a senior ColdFusion developer position and a team in the El Salvador team. We have I can't pronounce it, but I think it means designer of web.
Thank you, Google Translate.
Yeah. So a couple job opportunities there. If you go to the website, you can just email us and we'll get you started with that process. So a lot of good content, a lot of good job opportunities. And if you have one, let us know and we'll try and share that on the show as well. Okay, so next up, our ForgeBox module of the week. And this week, it's just a starter project, really, Eric, right? One of your projects. But I thought it would be fun to share, maybe get some input from other people, get some ideas, and, start building this module. But tell us, what is Coda?
So Coda, because everything needs a cool name that may or may not have anything to do with it, is a collection of date helper functions. I say collection because there's only one. I was working with a client and we were wanting to include in the output a kind of a human readable distance between times. For instance, how long ago was this? If it was 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 14 seconds ago, we didn't want to say, so many hundreds of seconds or things like that. We wanted to say about an hour ago. And so this has been done in plenty of date libraries, but I couldn't find anything really in CFML for it. So this was our making this one function for CFML. I'm guessing there's going to be other date functions, or I even think I put in the box.json. Maybe this will be a date wrapper and make it more object oriented. I don't know. But it was useful enough to publish just this one function because I've wanted to do this in quite a few projects. And you don't need to be some huge library to be a ForgeBox module. This thing does one thing. And here you are, you're welcome, open source.
Yeah, and that's usually a question people ask, like, well, when do I separate it? When do I pull it out? I'm like, I usually pull it out the second time I want to use it somewhere. 'Cause
Right.
as soon as you use it once, I'm like, okay, that's fine. But as soon as you want to use it again, it's like, okay, let me publish this somewhere. It's not hard to do, and then you
Yeah.
don't have to worry about updating it in the future. And I mean,
And
especially if you're using a build process.
yeah, some people might just say, well, why didn't you just put this in put this in a gist somewhere? It's just one little file. It's just one function. And the answer is, you're right. I like the idea of this being a place I can put more, but also I have tests around this, and I can't think of a really great way to add tests with like a gist or just a function I'm copying everywhere. So even if it never got any bigger than this, I'm grateful I can put tests around it and know I didn't break it. Some questions in the chat from Scott about doing all the different time gaps. It does. I had a little chart handy that showed it, but honestly, the test will tell you much better. So you can check out the source code, and the test gives you every single difference that it can give you. So less than a minute, about an hour, about a year, over a year, almost 2 years, things like that.
Oh, so I'm going to share my screen again for those watching, and then, yeah, so less than a minute, 1 minute, 5 minutes, 21 minutes, about an hour, about 3, 4, a day, 2 days, 20 days, about a month. Interesting. So there you go. Tests.
And to give credit, and I don't think I put this, I will go put this in the README. This is heavily coded along with date functions, or date FNs it's a JavaScript date library. They had the easiest implementation for me to understand. There were some others that were much more confusing. So yeah, this is a nice one. Maybe the next thing, but if we don't add another date helper, we'll be adding some like internationalization to this, so we can have different languages the same way. Because right now it's hard-coded English because I don't translate things, but we should. We know people who speak Spanish at least, right, Gavin?
Yep. That's for sure. So, little Portuguese too, and yeah, a few other. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. Like I said, I wanted to spotlight it because it gives you guys an opportunity to contribute, give us some ideas, and I'm sure you've got 3 or 4 crazy date functions around that may be useful to other people. So maybe we can contribute those too if they make sense. So
yeah. And maybe just take a moment to highlight how nice Cold Fusion is with working with dates sometimes. I Cold Fusion gets a lot of bad press, but I didn't have to implement a lot of things in here, like date diff, giving me the difference in seconds and the difference in minutes and months and all that. I didn't have to do that math. Comparing the dates, I didn't have to write that function. These were things that over in the JavaScript library they were doing from scratch, and also they had to worry about if they were getting dates at all. Like, things that Cold Fusion made easy, and it made me happy.
Yep. I know how many times we have to do conversions from Enoch and weird stuff, and yeah, for sure. I definitely like the Cold Fusion date functions. That's something they did pretty well. So, and it looks like Daniel's going to steal this for his global notifications menu, which would be good for alerts and updates, right? So notifications, perfect use case. Very cool. Okay. So next up we have our VS Code hint tips and tricks of the week, and this one was a new one, which it's one of those weird little console type modules where, like, do you really need it? And at the same time, I'm like, it's pretty damn neat. So let me share my screen for those watching. But this one we're going to be talking about is Turbo Console Log. And so basically all this extension does is make debugging easier in JavaScript by automating the operation of writing meaningful log messages. So basically what you do is you select a variable and you push the shortcut and it does a console.log, and then it basically puts a little message in there, and it'll actually keep track of like the variable enclosing the class name, the function name, and then the actual variable. So it gives you the name of the variable itself, and it'll keep track of if it's in a function. It'll keep track of what the second function name is. So it's pretty neat that it just does that for you. And I don't know, a lot of times my console logs are pretty weak because I'm just lazy. You know, when I'm trying to debug something, I do it really quickly. So this here actually gives you quite a lot of detail in a couple clicks, you know. But again, sometimes these extensions don't have to be that fancy, don't have to do that much, and they can still be valuable. So yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. And again,
I like it.
Nice and simple.
Somebody write this for write dump. I will use it immediately.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool too. So yeah, I know I use this all the time, and recently I've been doing a lot of this. So, so very cool. So again, Turbo Console log. It's got almost 300,000 installs and a 5-star rating. But yeah, simple but effective, and a lot of people are getting some good use out of it. So yeah. Well, let me just see what the chat's saying. Well, Scott thought that was really cool. And then Dan Card said, talking with someone a while ago, and he was spouting how CF had no libraries. No idea what he was talking from. But basically, his examples were NPM, which had hundreds of packages. Cold Fusion did most of it out of the box. And if it doesn't, guess what? We've got a package library, you know. ForgeBox does a bunch of stuff. And yeah, I mean, I think Cold Fusion has the advantage because not only do we have all of our libraries and built-in code, we've got all the Javas too, which is easily accessible. So
yep, it's true.
Yep, for sure. So, okay, so that's the extension of the week. So Turbo Console log. Okay, so that leaves us to the most exciting part of the week, where we get to thank all our awesome Patreon supporters that pledge their hard-earned money to support Ortus and all the community projects, including this podcast. So without them, we wouldn't be able to do this. So, and you guys,
too can join and become a Patreon supporter. You can visit patreon.com/Ortus Solutions. If you join our bronze package or up, you get a ForgeBox Pro and a CFCasts subscription as a perk. All our Patreon supporters have access to a private forum on our community website and an awesome badge to show their support on that community website. And now you can subscribe annually and save 10%.
Yep. And there's a lot of different packages to pick from. There's 7 levels. And this will actually allow you to see, how many patrons we have and our goals too. So those who are watching, you can see. You go look at our goals here. You'll see we've got certain goals lined up, so you can see what we're aiming for next. So our goals are obviously to help develop ForgeBox, and then CommandBox CLI will be the next goal as well. So goals are just to make our tools better, more accessible, more user-friendly, and help the community keep growing. And that's part of the reason we do this podcast every week. Or almost every week. Anyway, so let's thank our Patreon supporters. I think it's my turn. So thank you, John Wilson from Synaptrix, Don Bellamy, Eric Hoffman, David Bellinger, Dean Maunder, Gary Knight, Giancarlo Gomez, Jonathan Perrett, Mario Rodriguez, Jeffrey McGee from Sunstar Media, Yogesh Mathur, Joseph Flammery, Ben Nadal, Brett DeLine, Carl Von Staten, Charlie Earhart, Dan Carr, Daniel Garcia, Didier Lisnicki, Edgardo Cabezas, Jan Yannick, Jason Diger, Jeff McLean, Jeremy Adams, Jonas Erickson, Jordan Clark, Kai Koenig, Laxma Tirahadi, Leon Saramelis, Matthew Darby, Matthew Clementi, Mingo Hagen, Patrick Flynn, Ross Phillips, Scott Steinbeck, Sean Oden, Stephanie Mungie, and Stephen Klotz. So, thank all of you for all your support. We really appreciate it. And this is allowing Ortus Solutions to not only do this podcast, but to help fund other great community projects. And all of us from the community, thank you. Okay, so if you do want to see a list of those sponsors, you can check out ortussolutions.com/about-us/sponsors. And that's it for another week. Any final words before we head out?
Just hope to see you into the box. 1 month.
Yep, sign up, guys, and we'll see you there. And we'll see all of you next week. Have a good one, everybody.
Bye now.
Bye. Show notes for this episode can be found at cfmlnews.modernizeordie.io, where you can also subscribe to your favorite podcast player like Spotify or iTunes. We also have the link to YouTube to find more videos just like this. The music used in this podcast is under a royalty-free license from Sound.com and Blue Tree Audio.